we connect the NUO 2040 and the cameras up to the local network. Now we're going to shift gears and we're going to talk about what really makes these products cool, and that is the ability to have these devices so that they're accessible over the internet. This is the real money play. This is the thing. If you're a dealer and you want to sell these things, the way you'd sell them is this. You install one of these 2040s in your home or business, you put a couple cameras on it, you hook it up the way I'm going to show you how to do it, you get it so it's accessible over the internet. Now you're ready. You go out to your customers, the best customers in the world. Who are they? Your existing customers. You go to them and you walk in and you say, "Hey Charlie, how you doing?" "Oh, I'm good, Bill. How about yourself?" "Well, just checking. How's that camera system working I put in for you a couple years ago?" "Oh, it's working just fine." "Great, Bill. Charlie, have you got the internet there on your computer?" "I sure do. I've got a broadband connection." "Well, go to this internet address." And you give him an address. He types it in. "Oh, I've got the username and password, something called a NUO." "Well, let me put in the username and password. What have I got?" "Oh, Charlie, those are the cameras at my office. I can watch my office from my house. I can watch my office from my vacation home. I can watch my office from my iPhone. Let me show you." And you know what Charlie's going to say? He's going to say, "Wow, can I do that? Can you do that for me so I can watch my cameras from home? Or I can watch my home cameras from my office when my kid comes home at 3 o'clock and I get home at 6. I want to know how many of his friends he brought with him." We sure can do that, Charlie. We can do it with the NUO 2040. Have this stuff set up so you can demo it over the internet. This is what makes it really cool. Now I'm going to tell you how to do it. We've got it hooked up on the local network. We've got to hook it up on the internet. So our customer's got his network with his router and his DSL adapter or cable modem. It's hooked up to the internet. It's working. How are we going to make this happen? Well, the way we do it is we manipulate the router to provide what's called port forwarding, and we manipulate the firewall in the DSL adapter so that it will allow outside traffic, certain select outside traffic to come in. And now we're going to set it up so that that user that's out on the internet somewhere, I can be in Puerto Rico and I can call the cameras in Chicago and look at them through the internet because I know how and because I set it up, and I'm going to show you how to do it right now. Our router and our DSL adapter, they both have firewall functions in them. And when I talk about firewall functions, I want you to think about an access controlled door, like the door on the front of a hotel. The hotels I stay in most of the time, if the front doors are open from 7 in the morning or 6 in the morning till 11 at night, but if you show up at 11:30 to get in, you have to present your key. You have to put your key in the reader. It's an access controlled door, right? Well, that's what our routers and firewalls are in our DSL adapters. They're access controlled doors. They're programmable to allow certain traffic to come in, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to program the router and we're going to program the DSL adapter to allow specific traffic to come through. Let me show you how this works. First of all, our routers sit between two networks. They sit typically between the local network and the internet connection. The router is programmable and it has 2 IP addresses. I want you to remember that. Every router's got 2 IP addresses, one for the local network and one for the next network. You can think about the router like a door. Every door separates 2 things. My front door separates the outside world from the inside world, right? Well, the router's a door and it's programmable. It's got 2 addresses, right? So here you see a typical network setup where we've got a computer in the lower right hooked into our network switch. Our switch is plugged into our router, and you see the 2 IP addresses of the router. The one on the bottom, the LAN IP, that's going to be a static IP address on the router, and that's the default gateway address. Remember the 4 magic keys: IP address, subnet mask, default gateway, and port numbers? Well, the default gateway address for this particular network is 192.168.1.1. Now, the router is connected through the DSL adapter cable modem up to the internet, and it gets a public IP address or a different local address that is typically a dynamic address. Where you see WAN IP up above the box that says router, that's typically going to be a dynamic address, and it can change, but that's okay. I'm going to show you how to deal with that in just a little bit. But your router is going to have those 2 IP addresses. Now, When there's local traffic in the network, let's say you've got your cameras are talking to your new 2040 and they're transmitting video to it, that traffic just goes through the network switch. The router doesn't care because it's not going out to the next network or the internet, it's just staying local. Now, let's take the example though where this user in the lower right hand side, he wants to look at ESPN.com, he wants to look at the baseball scores. He sits at his computer and he goes on Internet Explorer, he types www.espn.com. Those packets go through the switch. Now, his computer knows, because he's going to ESPN.com, that that's not on the local network. So it goes to the default gateway, which is the router. The router says, oh, you want to go to ESPN.com? Okay, you can go. But I'm going to transmit your packets up to the internet, and I'm going to put my return address, the router's return address, on it. So do you see that, and then when the feed from ESPN, the stream from ESPN.com comes back, it comes back down from the internet to the router. The router looks at that stream of packets and says, well, who wanted to go to ESPN.com? Oh, 1.11 wanted to go. So the router readdresses the packets and sends them through the local network to the computer that asked for them. Now, understand that the reason the router is allowing ESPN.com, the feed from them, to come back through and get to that device in the local network is that that is what we call solicited network traffic. It's allowed back in because it was invited in. If you go home tonight and you're hungry and you order a pizza, and so you call your pizza place, and the guy shows up and he rings your doorbell and says, I got your pizza. What do? You open the door, you give him the money, you take the pizza, and you have dinner. You wanted that pizza. It's a solicited pizza. Now, let's say you go home tonight and you don't order a pizza, and some guy knocks on your door and says, got your pizza. Well, what do? You tell the guy, go away. You're not coming in. I'm not opening the door. I didn't order this pizza. That's an unsolicited pizza. You don't want it, right? The reason I give you this example is to explain what routers do to protect the computers on the local network. Routers are pre-programmed, default programmed, to stop unsolicited outside traffic from coming from the internet to get into the local network. It won't let it in unless it's programmed to allow it. And I'm going to show you how to do that, because we have to do that. If you take that computer in the lower right hand side of the screen over here, and we make that the new 2040, it's a network device, and we've got a user out here on the internet somewhere who is an authorized user, he's got the address, the port number, he's got the username and password, wants to call in and look at that 2040, he wants to look at live or recorded video, guess what? That's unsolicited traffic hitting the router. The 2040 isn't asking to be looked at. There's a guy out there on the internet saying, I want to look at it. The router has to be programmed to allow that traffic. I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. The way we do it